You know, when I decided I'd make this prediction video, I genuinely expected this to be a more exciting race. I expected a little bit of jeopardy. But I think at this point, sitting 9 days out from election day, I would be very surprised if Mark Carney doesn't win a comfortable majority. But you know what? Fuck it. Fuck it. I love surprises. So here's my formal prediction. I think Mark Carney underperforms his numbers come election day. 338 Canada is projecting he could win anywhere from 150 to 222 seats. 222 seats would be outrageous. It would be absolutely diabolical. They're projecting Poilievre wins between 93 and 159 seats. That's not going to be enough to win a majority, obviously. I think Pierre Poilievre overperforms those numbers. So I think we will end up with a liberal minority government. That's my official pick. I'm going to say it now before all the hipsters jump on, right? That said, it has been truly stunning to see Pierre Poilievre go from being 25 points clear when Justin Trudeau resigned to now trailing by 5 points or so. It has been stunning. Mark Carney created that lead basically by cannibalizing every other party. He took votes from Poilievre, he wrecked Jagmeet Singh, and he even managed to convince Quebec. A lot of this comes from the money in the bank that Mark Carney built up during the 2008 financial crisis. A lot more of it, obviously, is because of Donald Trump and his wild ways. Here's something I need to understand a bit more. I'm quite curious about Mark Carney's role in the 2008 financial crisis. I can't say I was paying attention to Canadian politics in 2008. I was in high school in a different country. Beyond what I've read, I do not have any first-hand experience of Mark Carney in 2008. So those of you with memories of that time, maybe get in the chat and let me know why Mark Carney is so respected for his role in 2008. Because think about it. Many people don't know the current Bank of Canada governor. But as someone who pays attention to that stuff, I will say that Tiff Macklem has been doing a decent job, right? He led us through the COVID recovery. I don't hear people talking about him. I don't hear people talking about Tiff Macklem. So how did Mark Carney earn this halo from the 2008 financial crisis? Somebody explain that to me. On Trump, people seem to trust Mark Carney to deal with him. Look, I don't know why Donald Trump has chosen to refrain from talking bad about Canada in the last few weeks. We know how much he loves shitting on Canada, right? I don't know what happened on that call between him and Carney, but that seems to have gone away. It's not like he's not still trying to damage our economy. Today, we have 25% tariffs on aluminum and steel. He has also attacked the auto manufacturing industry as well. We've lost something like 33,000 jobs in March or so. Same as Mexico. So it's not as if we got special treatment or anything. Also, Mark Carney keeps talking about winning a trade war. He has used those words at his rallies. Here's what fighting a trade war with the US looks like, you guys. China is the example here. The US has put tariffs on China before, and China really didn't do anything in the past, right? Donald Trump brags about that all the time. It's all fun and games until big mouth Vice President J.D. Vance entered the chat. J.D. Vance decided to call the Chinese peasants, and the rest is history. Now we have the two biggest economies in the world trading tariffs. The Chinese really have no incentive to give in because the Americans have made it a matter of pride for them. I say all that to show you what a trade war looks like. Mark Carney won't do that. To be fair, I don't think he should. It would be very dumb to go tit for tat, dollar for dollar with the US on tariffs. We would lose, right? There needs to be a limit, and Mark Carney has been clear on that as well. Like, notice he has not been in a hurry to go dollar for dollar in his tariff response to the US. Beyond the $30 billion in retaliatory tariffs, he has also announced 25% tariffs on non-CUSMA compliant US-made vehicles and on non-Canadian and non-Mexican content of CUSMA compliant US-made vehicles. My point here is, without saying the words out loud, I think Mark Carney knows that Canada's problem is domestic. We put ourselves here through years of complacency. We put ourselves in this shitty situation. In that, I think Mark Carney and Pierre Poilievre actually agree. You might have noticed that their policies are not that different. There are subtle differences, but they're really not that different, right? I can imagine if the Liberals had made this election about culture wars like Justin Trudeau did in the past, they would be losing right now. And this is where I have to really applaud the Liberal marketing machine. They recognized early that Mark Carney wasn't the guy to win a culture war election. Instead, they focus on making the choice for Canadians about his resume and personality. And that is the real reason Pierre Poilievre will probably lose this election. A lot of Canadians just don't like his personality. His personality seems to give women voters the ick. Yes, I've heard people actually use those words. I will say this, while I have said Mark Carney probably wins, there's always a puncher's chance, right? Stranger things have happened before. Maybe another big scandal from Brookfield. Maybe we suddenly discover Mark Carney was on Epstein Island. Anything can happen, right? If something somehow turned this back in Pierre Poilievre's favor, here's what I don't want to see. Under no circumstances do I want to see Pierre Poilievre in a minority government. If he isn't going to win a majority, please do not put Pierre Poilievre in a minority government. It would be an absolute fucking disaster. He has simply not shown an ability to form coalitions with anybody. All the other party leaders absolutely despise him. Jagmeet Singh for sure despises him. Like, he put that man through hell last year in order to try and force an election, right? What is more worrying about Pierre Poilievre is that he doesn't seem to get along with the conservative premiers. Doug Ford's former campaign manager, Corey Tenaik, has been outspoken in his criticism of the way Pierre Poilievre seems to have run his campaign. Do you know what Doug Ford said when he was asked about those comments by his former campaign manager? Truth hurts. That's what Doug Ford said. Truth hurts. Dude. Like, I do not know what Pierre Poilievre did to Doug Ford, but for some reason, it seems like Doug Ford doesn't like him. The only conservative premier that seems interested in helping Pierre Poilievre win this election is Danielle Smith. And you could argue her helping Pierre Poilievre has done him more harm than good. There are also rumors about how Pierre Poilievre keeps a tight leash on his MPs, that he doesn't let them answer questions and all that. Look, all the evidence points to the fact that Pierre Poilievre will struggle to form a coalition in a minority government. Whereas I think Mark Carney could actually make do with a minority. I think Doug Ford needs to get the credit for leading all the other premiers and getting New Brunswick and Nova Scotia to sign a free trade agreement with Ontario. It is literally the first step in Canada finally having one economy instead of 13, right? That is Mark Carney's vision. While you might argue he had nothing to do with the results that Doug Ford orchestrated, Mark Carney is the head of that table. And I think Doug Ford has done him a solid here. So people look at that and go, well, the guy's doing what he said he will do. I want to move on from that. There's a really dangerous trend I've noticed online in the last few days. I think this could be very problematic after the election. I've noticed many conservative outlets declaring victory, talking about a blue wave. Some have said Pierre Poilievre won the debates. There was even a guy that did a video talking about the exact moment Mark Carney lost the election. Like, I'm not going to mince words here. I think this is all set up for these conservative alt media influencers to cry about election fraud. I think that's what they are setting up to do. If Pierre Poilievre loses, you will get lots of stories about the election being rigged. It's turning into a thing now. Look, I try to always be honest with you guys on this channel. I'm an independent voice. I'm not paid by anybody, not even YouTube at this point. So I'll be playing with you. There is no evidence that Pierre Poilievre will turn this around. The debate was his final chance. Now, I, like many of you, thought Pierre Poilievre would wipe the floor with Mark Carney in the debates. I said that in a few videos. I'll eat humble pie here. I was wrong. Pierre Poilievre did okay in the debates. I'll even venture to say in the English debate, he was possibly the best one on stage in my rating. But you've got to think about the debates from the perspective of what each candidate needed to do. Mark Carney was heading into that debate with a healthy lead. He only needed to run a strong defensive game. In fact, I said this before the debate. Watch. I think Mark Carney is really the hunted here. I think everybody's going to put their jabs in on Mark Carney. So it will be interesting to see how Mark Carney handles that, because this is the ball game right here. If he comes out of these debates in the same condition as he's going in, by that I mean as a flawed candidate with some upside in all the places that matter the most today, then he's laughing. He is laughing. So going into the debates, Mark Carney was the guy with the most to lose. And you saw, especially in the English debate, that all the other candidates were really getting after him, more so than Pierre Poilievre at times. You might have noticed that when the candidates got to ask a question of the other candidates, they all chose to attack Mark Carney, right? Only Mark Carney went after Pierre Poilievre. So he needed to make it through the debate unscathed. And that's exactly the game you saw play out. He even landed a few jabs of his own, to be fair, like this one right here.
Looked at the camera in the eye and apologized to the many people who suffered as a result of the inflationary policies that you advised Justin Trudeau to implement.
You know, it's I said earlier, but I'm going to say it again. I know you want to be running against Justin Trudeau. Justin Trudeau isn't here.
Are you denying you were his economic advisor?
I did not provide any of that advice.
But
for Pierre Poilievre, what did he need to do heading into the debate? He needed to punch a hole in Mark Carney's credibility. He needed to dominate him. In my opinion, I think a lot of his lines didn't land so well. I streamed the debates live, and many people in my live chat were really put off by all the slogans. I don't think anybody came out of the debates going, wow, I think I should change my vote. Pierre is the one that will fix everything. He just didn't do that. He did okay, but he didn't do what he needed to do. But here's where the danger is with conservative alt media declaring victory right now. There was someone even comparing the US presidential election where Kamala Harris was in the lead heading into election day. First of all, Kamala Harris was only up 1 point. She was polling at 49% to Trump's 48%. I'll say that is within the margin of error, right? So if Mark Carney was leading by 1 point, it would be a different story. If Jagmeet and Yves-François Blanchet were pulling more votes in their various spheres of influence, maybe. There is simply no evidence that Pierre Poilievre will call this back. Now, obviously, my prediction assumes he will. My prediction of a liberal minority assumes that Pierre Poilievre will call back some votes. I'm predicting that some of those really close battleground regions, like BC, for example, might move towards Pierre Poilievre. But the fact is, there is no evidence that Pierre Poilievre will call this back. But stranger things have happened before. I'm not here to tell you who to vote for. You guys who watch the channel know that's not how I operate. Here's what I do not want to see, though. I do not want to see conservatives complaining about election fraud if Pierre Poilievre does lose. I don't think Pierre Poilievre himself would say the election was stolen. I actually think Pierre Poilievre is more classy than people give him credit for. The conservative alt media, on the other hand, these conservative influencers, I just know they will cry very, very loudly about election fraud. I can see it from a mile away. Anyways, you guys add your own prediction in the chat, and don't just drop a comment like vote Pierre or Carney for PM. The bots can do that all by themselves, right? I want to know who you're voting for and why. What's important to you in this election? Let me know. And if you're new to the channel, don't forget to subscribe and join the conversation. Oh yeah, and also go vote. Advanced polling is open right now, so go vote, go vote, go vote. Make sure, irrespective of whatever you think the outcome of the election is going to be, make sure you exercise your rights and vote. I'll see you next time. Take care.